Long ago, on the banks of a wide, shining river, there stood a village. The air was full of songs, the nights full of dancing, and the mornings full of the laughter of children. This village was blessed, not because it was rich, not because it was powerful, but because it remembered its roots. At the center of the village stood a sacred treasure, a drum. It was no ordinary drum. It was carved from the oldest tree in the forest, polished by the hands of many generations. Its skin was stretched from the hide of a sacred cow offered in thanksgiving. Long ago, the elders whispered, "This drum is the heartbeat of our people. When it speaks, the ancestors speak." And indeed, when the drum was played, it seemed the earth itself listened. When quarrels broke out, was beaten, and anger melted into forgiveness. When harvest time came, the drum called the people together, and unity brought abundance. When children were born, the drum sang, and joy filled every heart. The drum was not just music, it was memory. It was wisdom. It was the bridge between the living and the dead. Among the elders was a grandmother, named Nana Easy. Her hair was white as cotton, her eyes sharp as the eagle's. She always gathered the children around the fire and told them, "Never forget the drum. It carries the soul of our people. If you forget it, you will lose your way." The children would listen, but ask. They grew, their ears closed to her words. Time passed. From faraway lands, strangers came, traders with bright cloth, strange foods, shiny trinkets, and songs the villagers had never heard. The young men and women were amazed. Their hearts beat for the new rhythms, the new fashions, the new voices. They began to whisper among themselves, "Why follow the old ways? Why listen to the slow, heavy drum? The city songs are sweeter. The city ways are faster. The old drum is nothing but wood and skin." One by one, they turned away. The festivals no longer began with the drum. The marriages no longer danced to its beat. The children no longer learned its songs. The sacred drum was left in the corner of the shrine, alone, silent, covered in dust. The elders grieved. They pleaded, "Do not abandon the ways of your ancestors. Do not break the chain that holds us together." But their voices grew weaker, like fading echoes. The young ones laughed. "We don't need the past. We will build our own future." And so the first cracks began to appear in the once united village. Neighbors argued over land. Brothers turned their backs on one another. Husbands and wives quarreled without end. Children shouted at their parents. Unity was gone. Harmony was broken. And still, the drum sat silent. Then came a year unlike any other. The rains, which always fell faithfully, did not come. The soil cracked. The river shrank into patches of mud. The sun glared hotter and hotter as though it carried anger in its flames. The elders trembled. They said, "This is a warning. The ancestors are speaking. We have forgotten the drum and the earth has forgotten us." But many of the young people only scoffed. What can an old drum do against the sun? And so the drought deepened. Crops failed. Children cried with hunger. The animals fell one by one. The skies remained empty, silent. And there, in the corner, the drum still waited, its voice unplayed, its power forgotten. The story of the forgotten drum had only just begun. For a people who forget their past will soon face the darkness of losing their future. The days turned into weeks. The weeks stretched into months. And still, no rain fell upon the land. The once green fields became deserts of dust. The wide river, which had always given water and fish, shrank into a thin stream of brown water. The cattle grew thin, their ribs showing. The goats bleated with hunger. The children's laughter was replaced with the sound of crying. Mothers searched for food but found none. Fathers dug into the dry earth, hoping for hidden water, but their hands touched only stone. Even the wise healers could not make medicine, for the plants had withered. Away. Hunger began to break the spirit of the village. Where once there had been unity, now there was anger. Where once there had been kindness, now there was selfishness. Neighbors accused one another of hoarding food. Brothers fought over a handful of grain. Even friends turned into enemies. And in the midst of this chaos, some said, "The elders are to blame. They cling to old stories. Their drum is useless. We must find new ways." So the young ones tried. They sang the songs of the city. They danced the dances of strangers. They called upon traders to bring them help. But nothing worked. The skies remained closed. The earth remained hard. One evening, the grandmother, Nana Isi, stood before the villagers. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with fire. She cried out, "You have turned your backs on the ancestors. You have forgotten the drum. Don't you see? This is why the earth has closed her womb. This is why the sky withholds its rain." But the young people mocked her. They said, "Old woman, your words are as dry as the land. No drum can save us now." And so the suffering grew worse. Children grew weak and silent. Old men collapsed on the paths. The strong hunters returned empty-handed from the forest. The village, once proud and joyful, now looked like a place of shadows. Even hope seemed to leave. But one night, when the moon was full and the village lay in silence, Nana Isi dreamed. She dreamed of a great forest, dark and endless. And in that forest, she saw the faces of the ancestors. They looked at her with eyes of sorrow. And they said in one voice, Go back and fetch what was forgotten. The drum must speak again, or your people will vanish like smoke in the wind." Nana Isi awoke with tears on her face. She knew what she must do. The next morning, she stood once more before the people. Her body was weak, but her spirit was strong. She lifted her hands and declared, "The ancestors have spoken to me in a dream. There is only one way left. We must bring back the forgotten drum." Some shook their heads in disbelief. Some laughed bitterly. But a few began to wonder. Could it be true? Could the old drum still hold the power to save them? The answer would soon be revealed. For when all else fails, the wisdom of the past becomes the only hope for the future. The village gathered in the dusty square. The sun beat down, and the air was dry, but the people's hearts were heavier than the heat. In the center stood Nana Isi, the grandmother. Her voice was steady as she repeated the dream. "The ancestors have spoken. The drum must return. Only then will the rains come." Back! Some villagers shook their heads. "What foolishness," they whispered. Others laughed bitterly. "Will a piece of wood feed our children? Will a cowhide bring us water?" But hunger weakens pride, and desperation softens hearts. So, at last, the people agreed. They entered the old shrine. There, under cobwebs and dust, lay the forgotten drum. Its wood was cracked, its skin dry, its once bright carvings faded. The young ones sneered. This is what will save us." But Nana Isi bowed before it. She placed her wrinkled hands upon it and whispered, "Forgive us, ancestors. We forgot you, but we return now." She lifted the drum into the square, and for the first time in many years, the people gathered around it. A young man struck the drum. The sound was weak, hollow, lifeless. Some laughed. "See, it is dead, just like the past." But Nana Isi raised her hand. She said, "You must not strike it with pride. You must strike it with respect. You must sing the songs of those who came before." The elders began to chant. Old songs that spoke of the river, of the harvest, of battles won in peace. Restored. Slowly, the drum answered. Its voice grew deeper, stronger, richer. Boom, boom, boom. Like the heartbeat of the earth. The people fell silent. Then the children began to dance. The women raised their hands and sang. The men joined in, their voices shaking the air. And as the drum spoke, the sky began to change. Clouds gathered, thick and dark. The wind carried the smell of rain. And then the heavens opened. Rain poured down like a blessing. The dry earth drank eagerly. The river filled once more. The cattle lifted their heads. The children laughed as they splashed in the puddles. The village rejoiced. Tears mixed with rain on every face. The ancestors had heard. The drum had spoken. From that day on, the drum was never forgotten again. It was played at every gathering, every birth, every harvest, every ceremony. The children were taught to respect it, to learn its rhythms, to carry its songs into the future. Nana Easy's words became a proverb. A people who forget their roots will lose their way. But those who remember will always find strength. And so the village lived again in peace. Not because they found new riches, not because they had mighty warriors, but because they remembered the wisdom of their ancestors. For the past is never truly gone. It waits for us, like the drum, silent until we are ready to listen. This is the Sankofa way. Go back. Fetch what was forgotten. Carry it forward. And the future will always be strong.